The tourist crossed the line. He tossed a coin and reached for the royal guard's bearskin hat, confident that his status gave him the right to do anything. But when a loud command rang out, and the guard saved a child from being trampled by a startled horse, the crowd gasped. It was a moment that made everyone reflect on honor, resilience, and how easily true values are forgotten. But what happened to the arrogant tourist? Find out what ultimately shattered his pride. London, early morning. The city is barely awake, yet tourists are already gathering outside Buckingham Palace. The grey sky, heavy with moisture, seems to mirror the solemnity and grandeur of the place. The golden gates glisten faintly in the soft morning light, while the white gravel crunches under the feet of the crowd. People armed with cameras and phones search for the perfect angle to capture the royal guards. Among the bustling crowd stands James Farrell, a 28-year-old guardsman. Tall, fit, with chestnut hair hidden beneath a tall bearskin hat. His face is the embodiment of discipline, completely emotionless, not even a flicker of movement. His gray-green eyes are fixed on the horizon, and he seems utterly unshakable. His bright red tunic is impeccably pressed, and his polished black boots gleam. He appears to be part of the palace's architecture, yet at the same time, he's a living symbol of honor and the centuries-old traditions he upholds. In contrast, another figure stands out. A tourist named Michael from America. His brightly colored Hawaiian shirt, adorned with bold floral patterns, and a massive camera slung around his neck, practically scream, "Look at me!" His smug grin and brazen gaze reflect his confidence that he owns the moment. Spotting James, Michael approaches, tossing a coin that clinks as it lands at the guardsman's feet. "Hey man, move a little! Are you even alive?" he shouts loudly. The crowd goes silent. Tourists turn toward the sound, some beginning to film the unfolding scene, eager for a spectacle. James, as always, remains unmoving. His gaze stays fixed forward, as though Michael's provocation doesn't exist. But it's precisely this stillness, his unyielding calm, that heightens the tension. The crowd begins to whisper. One tourist, perhaps seeing a royal guard for the first time, murmurs, "Do they really never move?" Another adds, "He's so calm. It's unsettling." Michael, seeing that his first attempt has failed, decides to escalate. "Hey, you're here for us tourists, right? Entertain us!" he shouts, his words accompanied by fake laughter. Still, there is no reaction. James continues to stand at his post, his face maintaining its stoic mask. The crowd starts to split. Some laugh along with Michael, finding his antics amusing. Others begin to voice their disapproval. "That's just disrespectful," says an elderly woman in a blue coat. "He's on duty." The scene feels like a snapshot from a film. The majestic, motionless guard against the chaotic, brash tourist. No one knows how this will unfold, but one thing is clear. The tension is building. The sun begins to break through the clouds, casting a deliberate spotlight on the small drama unfolding outside Buckingham Palace. The white gravel gleams underfoot as tourists cluster tightly around the scene. At the center of attention is Michael, now emboldened by his small victory. He thrives on the crowd's attention, as if preparing for a final act. "What's the matter, man? Did your robot brain freeze? Or are you so serious you forgot how to smile?" he taunts, stepping closer. The crowd stirs. Some laugh, while others pull out their phones, anticipating a viral moment. Michael's face lights up with a smirk that combines both challenge and overconfidence. He crosses the white line drawn in front of the guardsman and slowly reaches toward the bearskin hat. "I wonder, is it real or just a prop?" he says loudly, ensuring his voice carries to the back of the crowd. And then James speaks. His voice is loud and commanding, cutting through the chatter like thunder. "Step back behind the white line!" The words slice through the air. The crowd instantly falls silent, the tension as thick as before a storm. Gasps ripple through the onlookers. Some freeze mid-recording, unsure of what to do next. Michael flinches and takes a step back, his expression shifting to one of unexpected confusion. But rather than backing down, he bends to pick up a small pebble, twirling it in his hand with a sly grin. "Come on, do something! You're a person, not a mannequin, right?" he jeers, throwing the pebble toward James's boot. The crowd begins to split further. Some laugh nervously, while others exchange disapproving glances. A woman in a blue coat exclaims loudly, "That's just disgraceful! This is a symbol of Britain." Next to her, a man nods in agreement, adding, "Seriously? That's going too far. Can't he just show some respect?" But Michael seems oblivious to the growing disapproval. He's no longer provoking for fun. His ego is now on the line. As whispers of discontent grow louder, he steps closer to the line again. From the crowd, someone finally shouts, "Enough! Step away!" But Michael doesn't listen. In his mind, stopping now would mean losing face. All eyes remain on James, who stands like a stone statue, his face unchanging, his gaze fixed forward. Only the faintest flicker of his eyes betrays that he notices Michael's every move. The scene outside Buckingham Palace shifts in an instant from a theater of absurd antics to a moment of palpable tension. A sudden scream pierces the air. A 5-year-old boy slips free from his mother's grasp and runs past the white line toward a nearby cavalry horse. The horse, startled by the sudden movement and noise, snorts nervously and takes a step to the side. Its massive hooves land dangerously close to the child. The crowd freezes, the air seeming to grow heavier. For a second, everything stops. Cameras, whispers, even Michael's smug grin. But James Farrell does not wait. Unlike the others, he acts. With one sharp, precise step forward, he reaches the boy. His movement is swift and calculated, like that of a trained soldier, executed with pinpoint precision. He carefully picks the boy up, holding him close, and carries him back across the safety line. The crowd erupts into applause. Someone shouts, "A true hero!" "That's a real man," adds another voice. The boy's mother rushes to him, tears streaming down her face. She looks at James with heartfelt gratitude. "Thank you. You saved his life." James nods, his face as calm as ever. But in his eyes, there's a flicker of warmth that doesn't go unnoticed by those watching. Meanwhile, Michael, who has been standing motionless the entire time, stares at the scene in confusion. His confidence evaporates faster than the morning mist. But as the crowd's attention fully shifts to the guardsman, Michael makes one last pitiful attempt to reclaim the spotlight. "Oh, now he's a hero, huh? So he saved the kid. Big deal," he calls out, hoping to draw the crowd's focus back to himself. His words sound especially pathetic against the backdrop of collective awe. The crowd immediately begins to murmur disapprovingly. The woman in the blue coat, who had earlier criticized Michael's behavior, snaps. "Are you serious? You tried to humiliate him, and he proved he's worthy of respect." Her words resonate. People start turning toward Michael, their looks filled with contempt. "This man just saved a child," says an elderly man standing nearby. "And you? You've acted like a complete fool." Michael begins to feel the ground slipping out from under him. The crowd that had been filming his antics just minutes earlier now completely turns away from him. Someone mutters quietly, "Typical tourist. It's all about the show." "And he thinks that's okay?" Another voice adds. Michael's face reddens, his shoulders slump, and he retreats, as though trying to hide behind his camera. Meanwhile, James returns to his post. Adjusting his bearskin hat, he resumes his statuesque position. His face once again becomes an unreadable mask, as though nothing has happened. Michael stands frozen, but not in a majestic pose. His face is now red with shame. The confidence he carried so proudly earlier has dissolved into thin air, and the crowd that laughed at his antics now openly despises him. It's a moment where justice feels just around the corner. Through the murmuring crowd, a palace security officer steps forward. His stern expression and deliberate stride leave Michael no room to argue. "Sir, you violated the rules and endangered others. Please come with me," the officer says, his voice steady and authoritative. Michael opens his mouth, as though to protest, but quickly realizes that words are useless. The crowd stirs with energy. Someone shouts with sarcasm, "Shame on you! I hope your video becomes a lesson for all the others like you." Others chime in, "That's what happens when you act like a clown." The officer gently but firmly takes Michael by the shoulder and escorts him off palace grounds. The tourist's once proud stance has vanished. He now looks like a schoolboy caught red-handed, wishing he could disappear. Meanwhile, James, as though nothing happened, returns to his post. His movements are deliberate yet precise. After adjusting his bearskin hat, he resumes his usual pose. His face, as calm as ever, hides any emotion. But for those watching closely, there's a faint smile at the corners of his lips. The crowd begins to disperse, but the conversations don't die down. People discuss the events with a mix of admiration and condemnation. "That guardsman is a true example of honor and dignity," an elderly man remarks. "Today, I learned just how important it is to respect traditions," someone from the younger crowd adds. A young couple snaps a photo in front of James, saying, "That was incredible. Now that's British discipline." From the sidelines, a quiet comment is heard. "Michael's going to be a meme now. I wonder how he'll react when he sees himself online." Commentary from the crowd. "Really, Michael? You thought you could humiliate someone who represents an entire tradition and get away with it?" This is the kind of moment where even the camera feels embarrassed to capture such foolishness. Let's all give a round of applause to the man who proved arrogance and stupidity are a perfect recipe for disaster. James remains the epitome of composure and dignity. His silent strength speaks louder than any words could. His actions inspire and earn the admiration of everyone watching. Michael, on the other hand, is now a shadow of his former self. His attempts to stand out have turned into a moment of deep humiliation, leaving a lasting impression on everyone who witnessed it. The ending leaves viewers with a sense of satisfaction. The antagonist has faced consequences, and the hero has risen above it all, maintaining his honor in the face of chaos. As the day draws to a close, this moment will linger in everyone's memory. Tourists leave the square with more than just photos. They leave with a lesson. James, standing motionless at his post, becomes a symbol of how honor and resilience can withstand even the most modern disruptions. Finally, someone in the crowd sums it up perfectly. "That guardsman is a true hero. People like him remind us why it's important to value and respect culture." And with that, there's no room for disagreement.